My name is Matthew Lydick, and I'm a freshman in formation for the Archdiocese of Galveston-Houston. Today, the fourth Sunday of Lent, is also called Laetare Sunday. Laetare comes from the Latin text of the entrance antiphon at Mass, and is translated as, "Rejoice, Jerusalem! Be joyful, who were in mourning." Last night, during First Vespers, we prayed in our first psalm, "Let us go to God's house with rejoicing." Then, this morning at morning prayer, we were urged, "Do not be saddened this day, for rejoicing in the Lord must be your strength." But you may say, isn't Lent a penitential season marked by fasting and penance? There's so much suffering in the world, so much suffering in my life. How can I rejoice? And why is the Church so adamant that today we rejoice? Consider for a moment that the opposite of joy is not penance, but sorrow. So we're called this day to move from sorrow to rejoicing. We as Christians recognize that the victory of the cross over sin and death causes us to rejoice in the fact that we've already been saved, even now. Venerable Fulton Sheen says, "True happiness is to rejoice in truth. And to rejoice in truth is to rejoice in you, O God, who alone are truth." It's important to consider then that the very God who delights in us all our days calls us to return to Him and experience the joy that He offers in a heavenly banquet. Brothers and sisters, we hear in today's gospel the parable of the lost son. A man has 2 sons, and he gives them their inheritances. And one of those sons takes his inheritance, runs away, spends it all, and is left with nothing. He comes back to his father in humility, fully aware of his failure, his sinfulness. And his father, rather than scolding and reprimanding him, sees his son and is filled with compassion, and he runs to him. Friends, we have no other option than to fall in love with the God who already loves us. And when He greets us with joy, we can be brought, as we hear in the 3rd verse of "The King of Love my shepherd is," we're brought home on His shoulder, rejoicing. Fulton Sheen says, there are 2 ways of knowing God's goodness. The first is never losing Him, and the second, perhaps more like the human condition, losing Him and then finding Him, making a return to Him. And so regardless of how this Lent has gone thus far, regardless of how you may have strayed from the Lord, allow yourself to return to Him, and let the remainder of this holy season be as fruitful as ever, trusting in the Lord's mercy, and knowing that just as He rejoices in your return, so can you rejoice in His loving embrace. As we move deeper into the season of Lent, approaching the Lord's passion, death, and resurrection in Holy Week, let us look ahead with hope and especially with joy, remembering that we have been rescued by the merciful love of God poured out for us in His Son on Good Friday, and ever mindful of the joy of Easter morning.